Why didn't God stop the abuse? That seems to be the question. Just a few days ago, I received a post from a gentleman who had just watched the question and answer portion of Resilience, a testimony of God's grace and healing, where Dr. Melissa Malanik and I discussed the healing process of my own PTSD. It's in that video that we talk about the importance of faith, my relationship with God, and His working through Melissa and others like her to help me with my own PTSD, my own struggles. The response of this gentleman, whose name is David, is interesting, I thought, and I'd like to share it with you today along with my thoughts on what he had to say. But before I get to David's statement, I'd like to ask a favor of you. If you like this video and you find it helpful, please click the like button. And then also, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Subscribe to Just Thinking, because when you do, it helps me to reach more people with the gospel of Christ. It also helps me to produce more materials that might help other Christians and encourage them in their walk with Christ. I'd also like to ask one other favor from you, and that is to visit one or both of my web pages. You can find the first at www.christcenteredsolutions.org or my blog at www.rod-west.net. Now, to David's statement. Here's what he wrote. Notice on the screen. If this is an example of God's grace and healing, it means nothing. Or it, God, wouldn't have allowed the injury in the first place. Notice David's view of God, little g God. I think there's a strong possibility that David is either an atheist or an agnostic. And there also seems to be a hint of anger in his statement. And I find this to be pretty typical of the negative responses to these videos, and there haven't been many, and I'm thankful for that. Now, at first I wasn't going to respond to David at all, but something was nagging me, and I decided that I needed to say something. Now, usually I don't respond to these type of comments or posts anymore, and my reasoning is that I've found that Facebook and other social media outlets just really don't provide us the opportunity to go in depth with our answers, and so that's why I write blogs occasionally, or I produce videos like this, because it does allow me to give a fuller answer. Now back to David. My response to his statement of God's absence of grace or lack of caring went like this. I'm sorry your philosophical view won't allow you to see the grace of God in the service of others who minister to the hurting. You certainly have a right to question the value of the video, but you have no rights to the credibility of my own experience of healing and the work done with Dr. Malanik. The real question raised in your statement is that of God's role in my experience and others like me. Acts of evil lay squarely on the shoulders of mankind in his fall or sin, and not on God. I suspect, though, that you deny the existence of God. And if you're right, the problem is still an issue with mankind. I pray God's grace and peace be manifested to you. Thank you for watching and at least hearing what I had to say. Now, I think it's interesting that we as human beings often want to attack God's character when He doesn't respond to scenarios or events in our lives the way we think He should. We question why He doesn't intervene and stop the evil before it happens. But on the other hand, when He has done so in the past, He often gets a bad rap as some maniacal monster. Let me put it this way. Many atheists and critics of the Bible attack God's actions in the Old Testament, calling Him a monster, believing Him to be evil when He ordered the Israelites to wipe out certain clans and people groups. That included men, women, and children. His reasoning was often in response to the abusive practices of these groups, which included the sacrificing of children to the god Molech by burning them to death. There were others also who He ordered to be put to death, even some Israelites, because of the same sacrificial practices, or because of their acts of sexual immorality involving women, children, and animals. What David and others don't often understand, or better yet acknowledge, is that God has never been the problem. It's always been mankind and his sin. Listen, there have been many times in my own life that I've struggled with this truth because I personally wanted revenge for what was done to me. I didn't always like the thought of leaving justice up to God, because like Jonah, I knew God was gracious and long-suffering. But let's bring it back to the question at hand. Could God have stopped my abusers along with every other abuser throughout history? Why not ask these questions? Could God have stopped Hitler, Stalin, or Mao? Could he have stopped the terrorists on 9/11? Or the mass shootings in the last couple of weeks or the last few years? The answer is, of course. But that would require an act even more extreme on God's part. It would require him eliminating everyone, every man, woman, and child from the annals of history. Again, God isn't the problem, and eliminating him from the equation isn't the answer, because it doesn't change the abuser, the mass murdering dictator, or the mentally deranged who walk in and just start shooting at random people. Often the question that follows is, then why couldn't God just take out those who are evil and leave the rest of us to live a peaceful existence here on earth? What I think is interesting about that question is that we never see ourselves as evil, only those who commit the most heinous acts. The truth is, though, all of us are evil. We're all sinners. We're all in need of God's grace and mercy. And removing only those we don't like creates other problems like the domino and ripple effects. As for David's question of God's grace within my own trauma, I choose to see him working in and through the compassion and love of other Christians, like my wife, family, church, and Melissa. Clearly, David missed mine and Melissa's statement on the providence of God in our first meeting. I was doing everything I possibly could to get out of her office without having to tell her anything. And had she not been a follower of Christ, there's no doubt in my mind I wouldn't have returned for a second visit, and I wouldn't have received the help that I desperately needed. See, as I've told many others in the past, I don't believe God wastes a hurt. He doesn't waste the pain of his children. I truly believe his intention is to take what Satan has meant for evil and he turns it to something beautiful and redeeming for his glory. For me, I choose to believe God will take my hurt and my pain and put it to use for someone else who has experienced similar things, who's also in need of his healing, of his grace and compassion. I'm thankful for those that God has placed in my life to share that with me, to help me through this time. Listen, if you haven't watched Resilience, a testimony of God's grace and healing, parts 1 and 2, please follow the links in the description below. I pray that they'll be a blessing to you, that they'll be a help. Or maybe you know someone that's suffering from PTSD or something similar, and you think that it might help them. Please share it. Blessings till next time.